Try to get Cody to see what the two guys. He wouldn't have no
I just wanted to make sure I can get one of the.
Across the river, maybe
Can you hear me? Thank you. Do you want to stand up? We can hear Brian. Thank you. You're welcome.
we're still.
Yeah.
stand. I can't hear so.
Yeah, I can barely hear it.
Tarnish your image. Tarnish your image.
Yes, sir. Everything in the military, I should say.
Anyone that's driving a gray Z71 and not part of mine, their headlights are on.
I've been here 15 minutes, but I'm not sure it's hard. Yeah, they had help, that's broken. Yeah. Well, you can cross the river.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Madison County Board of Commissioners regular business meeting, May 22nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the pledge. When we finish with the pledge, we'll take a moment of silence and remembrance of Memorial Day. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, be seated. Before we start, I'd like to thank Judge Malcolm for allowing us to use this courtroom tonight. Gentlemen, before you have the minutes from April 24th, 2023 regular business meeting and the minutes of May 1st, 2023 agenda setting work session. Please take a moment to look over those. If you see no discrepancies, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Chandler, second by Commissioner Kirk. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, Dennis?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Business involving guest groups and multiple visitors. First off, I would like to start with this proud proclamation for the Madison County 12U Boys All-Star Team. And I'll read it. Whereas the Madison County Rec Department basketball program is the second largest program in the department and is highly coveted at all local levels. And whereas Madison County, the 9 young men selected to represent Madison County on the 12U Boys All-Star Team are among the best players in the county. And whereas the 3 volunteer coaches providing training, encouragement, and highest example of good sportsmanship. And whereas the team advanced through District 7 playoff competition to the championship game. And whereas the championship win and a hard-fought game was a result of hard work and determination. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishment of these individuals and their parents who supported them through hours of practice and travel to games to excel in their sport. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to approve this proclamation. I have a motion by Commissioner Chandler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kirk. Gentlemen, any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Now, therefore be it resolved, we do hereby recognize the 2023 Georgia Recreation and Park Association District 7 12U Basketball Boys Championship Team and extend our congratulations and appreciation for the representative of Madison County. So resolved by the Madison County Board of Commissioners on this day, 22nd day of May 23rd. Gentlemen, please step forward. Good job. Good job. Thank you, guys. What you done?
Congratulations, pretty good job.
Again, thank you, young man. I remember when some of y'all coaches. I remember when some of y'all coaches played. Now, before we move on to the next item on the agenda, we have a special guest here tonight that wants to make an announcement. Mr. William Jameer, would you please come forward?
Commissioners, you want me to have a mic?
No, that's all right.
Commissioners, Chairman, my name is William Tremere. I'm the president of Madison County Pastoral Fellowship, which in Madison County, we have 10 churches, and we do different things in the county, community, but our biggest thing that we do is the Martin Luther King celebration on January. So, what we want to do, I was going to do it at our banquet we had 2 weeks ago, but he's out of town, and I'm going to be a surprise to him. But our Pennsylvania Fellowship, want to present, that with a plaque for his service. Because Notice Scott is on our, fellowship too, in our fellowship. For this reason, Madison County Pennsylvania Fellowship presented to Zach for your 27 years of outstanding service in the community and serving the Martin Luther King program under the leadership of the Madison County Pennsylvania Fellowship. For that. Thank you for that, Kelly.
That's something that I've been pretty excited about for several months. I want to move on to bear with me, but I'm going to all the way through this. But a proclamation for my good friend, dear friend, Zach Mitchell. Whereas Zach Mitchell has served as editor of the Madison County Journal for 25 years, and whereas the 2022 State of Local News reported issued by Northwestern University noted, in communities without a credible source of local news, voter participation declines, corruption in both government and business increases, and local residents end up paying more in taxes and at the checkout. And whereas that in 2022 report also observed that the nation is on a track to lose more than 1/3 of its total newspapers by 2025. Having already lost more than a quarter, 2,500 since 2005, and that the newspaper employment has fallen by around 70% since 2006. And whereas while the crisis has unfolded across the country, Madison County has been largely shielded from its effects for the past quarter century due to the tireless, supremely professional efforts of journalist Zach Mitchell. And whereas during his tenure as editor, Mr. Mitchell has attended countless meetings of city councils, county commissions, school boards, and not to mention local school and youth sports competitions, awards, and ceremonies, and other community events of all kinds, and still, somehow also found time to always make the phone calls and do the research necessary to give his reporting throughout an accurate context. And whereas as editor, Mr. Mitchell never failed to perfectly achieve the extremely difficult balance of being a friend, neighbor, prominent citizen, while also holding community leaders to account, reporting both success and failures without fear or favoritism. Well, Mr. Mitchell has decided to leave Madison County Journal to pursue new challenge working within Madison County. Whereas, while sad to see Zach Mitchell leave the Madison County Journal, all are grateful that he and his family will remain local citizens and valued contributors to the community life. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve tonight's proclamation for Zach Mitchell.
Make a motion to approve this proclamation for you. Second motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Adams and a second by the rest of the board. It sounded like. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Madison County expresses its gratitude to Zach Mitchell for his exemplary quarter century of service as editor of the Madison County Journal and wishes him great success in the next chapter of his career. So resolved by the Madison County Board of Commissioners on this 22nd day of May 2023. Please step up, my friend. This proclamation is just a start to show the gratitude from the Board of Commissioners. I wanted to do something special for you because I know how much you have done and how much sacrifice your family's put in so he could do for the citizens of Madison County. And I couldn't think of no better way in my research to find that anybody had ever been awarded a key to the county. I don't know if I'm sure of that. Thank you so much. But I always say I'm not financially a rich man, but I'm a very wealthy man. And I have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful family, wonderful friends. I look out there, I see so many friends out there. I've developed so many good relationships over 25 years, and it hits me in the heart tonight, and that's good. I had no idea that. I want to read my own proclamation. Can I do that? Sure. This is not a one-man show. It's never been a one-man show. Madison County newspaper's been around 140 years. And it takes a lot of people to keep that torch going. We've got Hannah Berry here and Allison Smith. We're going to have to keep that torch going. And I also wanted to remember my cohort for 24 years. I feel like if I'm getting any kind of recognition, Margie Richards needs recognition. This is the proclamation recognizing Margie Richards. Can somebody without a law degree use whereas? Whereas Margie Richards had the longest tenure with the Madison County Journal with 30 years of service.
Whereas in the early days of her employment, Margie was paid in quarters from newspaper boxes, but she stayed with the paper and helped it grow and flourish. Whereas Margie Richards served 24 years as both the office manager and as reporter, specializing in features where she showed a special knack for finding a good story idea and getting community members to open up to her about their life experiences. She also earned numerous writing awards from the Georgia Press Association for her excellent coverage in Madison County. And whereas Margie Richards was always a wonderful co-worker and friend, providing numerous laughs over the years, especially during editor-reporter Monday morning talks. She was Zach Mitchell's sidekick for 24 years, and he was hers. And whereas Margie has always had a gift for speaking from the heart, whether it's in person or in print. Now, therefore, be it resolved, on this day, May 22nd, 2023, Margie Richards will be remembered for being part of the heart and soul of the Madison County Journal for 30 years. Can I get a motion in a second?
In true Zach Mitchum style, instead of taking the spotlight tonight as deserved, he shined on Margie Richards. I wouldn't have expected anything less from you, Zach Mitchum.
It's a bit of those
Now, for the ones of you that just came for proclamations, you're welcome to leave, or you can wait and hear the rest of tonight's meeting, which hopefully will be under 2 hours. Young lady, George Jones, had a song, Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes? I can tell you, you have very big shoes to fill. I know by the attendance tonight how well Zach Mitchell was respected throughout Madison County. I'm so proud that each and every one of you showed up tonight for this special event, for Zach. I tell you what, by the next meeting, I'll have one from Margie also showed up. All right, moving on. Mr. Rodney Chandler. Rodney, I got a mic set up right here. Unless you want this one. Nope, this one. Just fine.
You said I had up to 2 hours, is that correct? Just to make sure that things go well, I would like to first introduce myself. I'm a friend of Zach's, so just congratulations, that was well deserved. I am Rodney Chandler, and I'm speaking on behalf tonight of the Economic Development Study Committee to present the findings of our group. The Economic Development Study Committee is a group that you all created in October of last year, and the purpose was to evaluate and review Madison County's future and what the economic development landscape should look like. The formation was centered around questions that you all posed, such as what should the structure look like, what should the committee and organization structure look like among the Board of Commissioners, the IGBA, the Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Education, All of that in terms of economic development for the county. Further provocative questions that y'all had proposed was, is Madison County's form of government effective when it comes to economic development? Do the current missions, roles, and responsibilities of these shareholders need to evolve? And what is the most efficient structure of the water department? That was sort of the charge that you presented to our group. And I think you had left it sort of nebulous and open-ended and wanted us to explore lots of those issues. And we feel like that we've done that and have a good report to present. I thank you for the opportunity to present to you, and thank you for creating a committee. I do want to introduce those that made up the committee, many of whom are here tonight. From the Madison County Board of Education, there was Byron Lee and Cindy Nash. From the Chamber of Commerce, myself and Kim Shue. From Business and Industry, we had Brian Holcomb of SPG Construction and Thomas Yoder of SMI Composites. From the IGBA, we had Ben Morris, Gene Mullis, and also Rodney Schubert. And someone that we met tonight, a citizen, William Tremere, was on the committee. From the Board of Commissioners, we had Chairman Higgin and Commissioner Chandler and Commissioner May, as well as Christina Baxter and Lacey Baker that were there in support. We appreciate your help there. And representing Planning and Zoning, Christopher Roach was with us as well. You all have chosen as facilitators the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia and their County Consulting Services Group, where Mary Beth Brownlee, Bill Toomey, and Michael O'Quinn served to facilitate our process. And again, thank you especially to Christina and Lacey for all the work in getting this together and assisting us all. We were all very mindful in this process that our job is to study and to recommend, and we're thankful that the decisions are not ours. So we recognize that the hard work of deliberating and prioritizing falls and should fall on your shoulders and not ours, but we are pleased to present this work to you. Timing can be very important in life, and it certainly is in a political realm. So before I go into the findings of the committee, I want to take just a second to talk about the landscape and why now seems like a really good time for this committee to be assigned and to do this work. I don't mean this first, so I've got three big timing things, and the first one, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to make points with you, but the first part of good timing is we seem to have a very well-functioning Board of Commissioners at this time that seems to have no personal agendas, willing to tackle hard problems and to think about long-range thinking. And that's certainly critical, and we wouldn't have been asked to do this without that being in place. Another timing thing that makes this a good time, there was a well-known recent series of events that had surrounded economic development that exposed some poor communication and poor collaboration, maybe some information silos and maybe turf wars, and some seemingly unnecessary conflicts with existing industries regarding infrastructure planning and placement, and personnel changes at the IDBA. All that had happened in recent time. And the third thing that makes it a third big important factor for good timing is we're very near the completion of the comprehensive plan. So the timing of all these things put together with now we know more about roads than we have before with the road study. We have a noise study, so we know more about that that's going on. I think it's safe to say we have a very engaged community based on this crowd. I was expecting a small group to speak to tonight. And we have been blessed to be part of the resurgent and effective Chamber of Commerce. So all of these things create an unusual opportunity, we believe, to initiate meaningful change for the betterment of Madison County and for its citizens. The first part of the process that the study committee went through was to take a brief survey, well, maybe not such a brief survey, to take a survey of all of our members that was prepared by our facilitators, the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. I have a few notable points of that survey, and by the way, I think that you all have been provided a copy of the complete report from the study committee, as well as an executive summary that sort of highlights the points. But I do want to highlight a few things that the survey found. There was a resounding 2 out of the 11 of us, 2, that felt like economic development was being effective in Madison County right now, which is to say that 9 out of the 11 of us did not feel like economic development was currently effective. Some of the things that were discussed were that roles were not clearly defined. There had been significant problems in communication between entities, some personality things. Too much of a focus had been on water and none on economic development. There were comments about we wanted to continue to be mindful of our strength in agricultural and agricultural character, but also to identify and plan for growth opportunities that align with the comprehensive plan. And there was a sense that there might be there might not be the trust level that there needed to be among the authority groups. As we learned through the process, the facilitators led us through exercises that blended our own input and feedback with their vast level of experiences in helping other counties that were close to us and distant from us, but situated in similar circumstances. The group identified our strengths in the agricultural industry, our wonderful education system, our trained and ready labor force, and our proximity to Athens and Jackson County, which are 2 big economic drivers in the region. We identified concerns that there's been opposition to economic development, lack of in-place infrastructure, the housing market and entry-level housing, and a lack of inventory of properties for economic development. And there were concerns about the current structure and makeup that we believed it does not allow for the regional thinking in this world where regional partnerships and collaboration have been a benefit to most. We learned that our structure is deficient in allowing for that collaboration. As I work my way towards our recommendation, I first want to talk about some key findings that sort of overarch everything that we're recommending. It's all of these key findings we think are important to consider, no matter what the outcome and direction that the commissioners decide to take. The first is we have very positive momentum to identify and to change what is needed. The timing is right, we think, and we appreciate y'all's efforts in getting that climate right for discussion and change. The next key finding, I should say, clear communication channels, clear communication and coordination mechanisms are vital for effective economic development. Communication is key. The key entities need to be continually engaged and aligned on long-term thinking and near-term strategies. And this includes the groups that we've mentioned, the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Education, the Chamber, the IDBA, a Water and Sewer Authority that I'll introduce in a minute, plus other stakeholders. They need to all be at the table. Another key overarching finding, planning using a very long-range mindset, 20 years or 30 years or even longer, is foundational to long-term success in economic development. Infrastructure in targeted areas takes time. Fostering regional partnerships takes time. Identifying and courting the right industry takes the right people, and it takes time. Collaborative planning is essential for aiming towards the goals of the comprehensive plan. Careful prioritization of spending is needed to ensure good stewardship of taxpayer and county resources. And finally, under my key findings, is the big challenge. Creating and nurturing and sustaining a culture of continuity and collaboration will be a significant challenge. Election cycles happen, people change, personalities will sometimes clash. But creating and maintaining a process or a culture, even better, that protects that collaboration or allows for collaboration and continuity, that will be a major challenge in success over the long term. Now, with all that being said, we do have some specific recommendations. So let's talk about those as I move towards the end. Our first recommendation has to do with restructuring, probably within the IDBA, but restructuring the economic development process and function by separating water and sewer operations away from economic development. The combined mission of the IDBA to handle both water and sewer and economic development, we feel, led to the imbalance of priorities. Over the many years, economic development was effectively ignored and as water was pursued. The study committee believes that the function of constructing and operating water and sewer services should be a wholly separate function from economic development, so that economic development can receive its own necessary focus. This should require a restructuring of the IDBA, the board of directors, based on the strengths and skill sets of the board members. Those that have expertise with water and sewer should follow that path. Those with expertise in economic development should follow that. We feel that the commissioners should create a mechanism for collaboration among the shareholder groups that we've named, either by changing the makeup of the board or by establishing a coordinating committee so that all of the stakeholder groups can have the necessary information and input on the decisions that are being made. Personnel is a key factor in this success as we keep under this separation idea. Hiring the right president or executive director and staff for economic development is key. One large issue that will surround anything that's done with water and sewer is the servicing or shifting of the existing debt that's there. That will be a huge challenge as we go forward. And with each of these, I should have said this at the start, but with each of these recommendations, we do have a recommended time frame. And this particular one, separating the function of water and sewer from economic development, we think should happen right away, as soon as this year. Our next recommendation is a little longer term, but it's so closely related to the first one that I wanted to go ahead and talk about it next. And that is creating a separate legal water and sewer authority. Again, this is separate from the initial sort of temporary recommendation of separating functions within the IDBA. This is creating a separate authority under Georgia law that would be the Water and Sewer Authority. Our work revealed that the current charter of the IDBA has limitations on what it's allowed to do, and those limitations have become outdated and restrictive in today's environment. For example, we understand that if the IDBA were to decide that creating a strategic partnership with another county to optimize resources and achieve common goals, the current charter would not allow that partnership to happen. They can only operate within Madison County. We live in a connected world, and the flexibility to make good decisions on opportunities that might arise is critical. and the regionalization of all things infrastructure related, we've seen it happen and happen successfully all around us. So the study committee believes that the Water and Sewer Authority needs to be created to allow that flexibility, so they can consider thinking beyond our immediate boundaries. Some of the things that the Water and Sewer Authority should pick up and work on would be a water engineering study, learning from other targeted counties, determining the right priorities for strategic allocation of taxpayer resources, and to develop a business model for the water and sewer to sustain itself as industry and customers are added. We believe that the Water Authority should operate guided by the comprehensive plan that is being finished up right now. The Water Authority should be led by the right people, informed by careful studies, and should prioritize projects for the wise stewardship of resources. As I've already mentioned, transferring or addressing the debt will be a significant challenge. But we do believe that this separate authority is the right model for long-range thinking and success. As for a timeline, we think that's probably a 2024 or 2025 target, as that will take some time and legislation to make happen. Our next recommendation is to develop a comprehensive countywide economic development strategic plan. You all are working on the required comprehensive plan. We think an economic development strategic plan should work right in concert with that plan and in alignment with your comprehensive plan. It'll be the connecting point between the goals that you all identified in the comp plan and marry that to specific strategies to implement effective economic development for Madison County. This economic development strategic plan would go deeper into identifying target industries, target growth areas, type of growth, identifying the needed infrastructure, identifying necessary policy changes, and could even address whether incentive packages for the right industry are needed and what those could look like. Anytime a plan like this is put together, we think a comprehensive public engagement strategy, perhaps similar to what was used so successfully with your comp plan, will be appropriate with this plan and should include adults and youth, business, and industry. This plan should identify timeframes, goals, and objectives for economic development within the county. Now, I know I'm out of order because I did one. My first one was right now. My second recommendation for the Water and Sewer Authority was a little bit later. This one's in the middle. So we think a 2023 or 2024 timeframe for the Economic Development Strategic Plan is the right timing. Our final recommendation is the one that's the farthest down the horizon, but we think is probably one of the most important to help ensure continuity and success for the long term, and that is to consider and implement a county manager form of government. One of the key factors we identified is the need and great difficulty in creating and sustaining a culture of continuity and collaboration. The study committee feels that the current form of government does not create the ideal environment for sustaining continuity over a long-range planning and strategic horizon. We feel that a county manager form of government can provide continuity that lasts beyond the election cycles and beyond the politics of the day. And we, as I said, we feel this is a key element of long-term success. At the right time, our recommendation would be to engage and educate the citizens on the pros and cons of the county manager form of government, to work with the legislative delegation to provide necessary structure for the possible change, and then have a local referendum on the issue, possibly in the 2028 timeframe. So, I came in a little under 2 hours, which is good. I do thank you for the opportunity, to participate in this exercise. I do congratulate you on your ability to tackle hard questions for the betterment of Madison County. I can tell you that I feel like every member of the study committee had that same goal in mind, the betterment of Madison County for generations to come. I'm sure that I speak for all of us in saying that we stand ready to help you in any way we can as you work towards those important recommendations. And I told them I put them on the hook for this. I and the other folks from the committee will be happy to address any questions that commissioners have on this study.
Thank you, Rodney.
Anyone have any questions for Rodney?
Ron, first of all, thank you and the whole team that participated. I know what you task, but that's why, you know, those of you that volunteered to serve on it, you know, we need you to do the job. I guess from a timeline standpoint, I think I'm asking it correctly. The 1, 2, 3, and 4, the recommendations, even though there's a timeline that's set, share any thoughts on y'all had on, of course, some of it needs to be overlapped with each other. You know, share any thoughts that y'all may have on kind of it's easy to say start here, be finished here, but it's a little more nuanced than that, I would think. Is there any thoughts that y'all would share just on the sake of how it kind of blends together from A all the way to Z?
Sure. And one of the things, and thank you for the question, one of the things that was a problem that we were trying to solve is decisions that could get made today that have to be unmade in 5 years or 10 years because it didn't allow for changes that should have been anticipated. So having a roadmap of where we think things ought to be is really the key to the I don't know why I'd say so many syllables, the integrated planning of all of this. So it's all really connected. So as we separate the functions of water and sewer from economic development, we're doing that having a separate authority in mind. So all of that thinking is sort of aligned. And as that's going on, we're working on the economic development strategic plan to guide the economic development part of that process. So we think all of those 3 recommendations are very closely tied together and would have a great deal of overlap in the implementation.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Rodney, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Next, Robin Baker, Chief Appraiser for Madison County, has a PowerPoint. I'll let Robin explain.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, my name is Robin Baker. I'm Chief Appraiser for the Madison County Board of Assessors. I have Gary Tapper, the Deputy Chief Appraiser, with me tonight. The board has asked us to come in and give a short illustration of why the value is increasing in the market the way that they do. So the first thing I want to do tonight is we're going to show a 3-minute video. I don't know if everyone on the right side of the room is able to see the presentation. If not, you may want to try to move to the left side. You might be able to see better.
Hold on 1 second, let me get it together. You want to do the video first, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this one right here.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding about the role of appraisers and how they affect the property tax that homeowners pay. When someone hears the term appraiser, they seem to think of a scary figure reaching for their wallet. Not so. Appraisers don't set tax rates. Appraisers don't chase tax dollars. An appraiser is interested in fairly determining property values, and they take great pride in it. Property tax is determined by a simple formula. Appraisers only affect one of these variables, the value, and they do so with incredible accuracy. Appraisers aren't tax collectors or even tax setters. They're just fellow taxpayers, and their primary goal is to make everything fair and equitable. Imagine that you are in a restaurant with two friends. One orders a hot dog, one a plate of caviar, and you order a steak. The waiter comes to the table with a total bill of $100, but he doesn't know how much each of you should pay. If everyone paid the same amount, the guy who ordered caviar might be happy. But what about the guy who ordered a hot dog? Enter appraisers. The food is your property. Just like these meals, some people's property is worth more than others. And it's the appraiser's job to determine how much each property is worth. That's it. So, in the same way the value of these menu items would need to be determined, an appraiser places values on properties to ensure fairness and equity. After the appraiser determines the value of each property, the city, school, and county boards will set their budgets for the coming year. They set the mill levy, or tax rate, in order to produce the dollars needed for their budgets. The value of a property does not affect the amount of property tax needed. The sum total of all these budgets is a set number that has to be divided up among all the property owners. So even if everyone's value is cut in half by the appraisers, the mill levy will be raised in order to generate the same amount of tax revenue. The appraisers don't determine the taxes you pay. They just determine the values of properties to keep everything as fair and equitable as possible. When you notice a change in your property's appraised value, the change is the result of a never-ending quest for fairness and accuracy. Appraisers are graded on their performance, so there is a detailed system to get accurate valuations. First, the appraiser looks at similar properties that have sold, their sale prices, and the terms and conditions of each sale. That's the reason your home won't just be compared to the place next door. All comparables must have sold in the last 3 years. Studying things like square footage, age, and location helps appraisers determine how comparable another property is to yours. Even seemingly small details, like an extra bathroom or finished basement, can result in significant differences in value in two otherwise identical homes. Appraisers maintain a thorough database of real estate information to make this process as precise as possible. Changes in value are typically the result of local real estate market sales or major changes to a property. Remodel a kitchen or finish a basement, and your property's value could increase. When you see your home's appraised value, you can rest assured that the number has not been drawn out of the hat, nor generated with anything but equity and accuracy in mind. Long story short, appraisers are here to help, not trying to hinder. Their focus is accurate values, not tax collection. By determining the value of a property, appraisers help sell homes. They don't write tax bills. The only things an appraiser chases are fairness and equity, and they take great pride in it.
So now, the next thing that we put together for everyone is a PowerPoint presentation. And like the video says that we get graded on how we do our jobs. That's what we're going to look at on the PowerPoint presentation tonight. It shouldn't take long, but it's going to be where our values come from through the market approach for sales. Christina, if you want to go to the first slide. So the first slide is how does the value affect my taxes? And it tells us that the assessors determine the fair market value for all properties. That comes down to the total appraised value. And we multiply that by the level of assessment, which is 40%, which equals the total assessed value. And that goes back into where it's calculated into the annual budget. And the school, the Board of Commissioners, the IDA, all of those set their millage rates to come up with the total tax bill based off of what they determine the budget needs to be for the year.
You can, space bar?
So fair market value versus assessed value. The property valuation office is tasked with making appraisals of all properties in the county, known as mass appraisal, because we have to look at all properties in the county, not like a Those values are defined as fair market value or 100% value. The level of assessment for tax purposes in Georgia is 40%, so you actually pay tax on 40%. It's just a mathematical way for the government to calculate your tax amount. Fair market value in the market approach is determined by bona fide sales known as arm's length transactions. And the official code of Georgia annotated 48.5-2.1 defines an arm's length transaction as any transactions occurring in good faith without fraud or deceit, carried out by unrelated or unaffiliated parties, by a willing buyer and seller, each acting in their own self-interest. Our sales data, the state of Georgia sets the date of valuation as January 1st, so everything we look at has to be valued as it sits January 1st, and in order to do so, we have to use prior year sales to set current year values. So sales from 2022 are used to set fair market values for 2023. And as the video said, we can go back 3 years, but if we have enough sales just from the previous year, that's what we'll use. Each year, the property valuation office enters in deeds from sales that have occurred from the previous year and determines which sales are qualified sales. And we have a staff that goes through the sales to determine if they're qualified or disqualified. The qualified sales are plotted on the map to determine the patterns and trends in the areas. Then the sales ratios. The sales assessment ratios are what the state uses to determine if the county's values are in line with sales prices, and they're calculated by dividing the assessed value by the sales price. An example would be a $100,000 fair market value property sales for $125,000. That means that the ratio would be $100,000 times the 40% assessed value equals $40,000 divided by $125,000 sales price, which is a 32% sales assessment ratio. Now, since 40% is the level of assessment in Georgia, the fair market value on this particular sale is 8% low. So, sales of homogeneous properties are put into a sales ratio, and sales of similar properties in nature and use. A median or middle ratio is obtained from arraying all the sales, either from large to small or small to large, either way that we would want to do that. The state of Georgia sets an acceptable median for a sales ratio between 36 and 44. The 40% ratio means that our fair market values are set at exactly what they sold for. That's if we're at 40%, that means we have every sale in the county at 100% of what it sold for. But that would just be nothing more than just chasing sales. That we just look at a sale and we put it in the system at what it sold for. The 36 to 39 is acceptable, but that means that we're undervalued property. 41 to 44 is still acceptable, but it means that our values are higher than the sales. What we like to be is around 38 to 40 on the ratios. If the median ratio falls below 38, that means that the public utilities are taxed at what the actual ratio is from the state, what our state ratio is. So if our state ratio is 36, public utilities are taxed at 36 ratio, where everybody else in the county is taxed at 40. So the public utilities get a break on that. And if our ratios fall out of compliance, the state can come in and fine the county $5 per parcel for every year that they continue to be out of compliance. And that would be in addition to any other tax that the county or the school or the IDA would need to generate to continue to operate. Now, the state guidelines, aside from the median, the state also measures our COD and the PRD that shows in our sales ratios. A COD is the coefficient of dispersion. It measures uniformity, and for residential properties, it has to be under 15, or commercial and agricultural is under 20. A PRD is a price-related differential, and it should fall between 95 and 110, and it tells us that we are either operating on progressivity or regressivity. under one is progressive, and that means that the higher value properties are over-assessed in comparison to the lower value properties. And if it's over one, it's regressive, and it just means the opposite, that the higher value properties are under-assessed in comparison to the lower value properties. So the steps in the sales ratio process, first we determine the sales ratio for each sale, and that's the sales ratio or the sales price, the sales ratio assessment divided by the sales price. We place all the ratios in a range from the lowest to highest and find the median ratio, the middle ratio, and then we find the deviation from the average ratio. Deviation equals the median minus the sales ratio, or the absolute with no negatives. Then we sum the sales price and assessment amounts and sales ratios and the deviations. We list the median ratio, we find the mean ratio, which is the average of all sales ratios, and we sum the ratios divided by the number of ratios. That gives us the aggregate ratio, which is the total assessment divided by the total sales price. Find the mean deviation. We find the mean deviation, that's the average of the deviation from the average ratio, the sum of the deviation ratios divided by the number of ratios. Then that will lead us to find the coefficient of dispersion, which is the mean deviation divided by the mean. We'll find the price-related differential, which is the mean divided by the aggregate ratio. So in this example, it tells us that we have 15 sales with a total sales price of $1,669,000. We have an assessed value of $439,720. That gives us a total ratio of 4.4725, and you can see the median ratio, which is the middle ratio, comes out to 0.2864. The deviation from 0.2864 from all these ratios is listed in the last column, and the total of that's 1.2047. So if we go on down, it tells us that what I just told you, the median ratio is 0.2864, the mean is 2982, aggregate is 2635. All those are used to calculate the different COD, PRD we were talking about. So the mean deviation calculated is 0.0803. The coefficient of dispersion is 0.2804. And if this is a residential ratio, that coefficient of dispersion is way out of line because it has to be below 15. And then the price-related differential is 1.13. It's also out of line because it's not supposed to be more than 1.10. So that one would be, that one is above, that one would be regressive, telling us that the higher value properties are over-assessed in relation to the lower value properties. Then on the appeals, once we send out the notices, which I'm sure everyone out here has gotten the notice and when everyone's concerned, you have 45 days to file an appeal from the date of the notice, and then we have the grounds for an appeal are either value, which is you don't agree with the appraised value, uniformity, which you feel like your property value may be okay, but it's not uniform with other values like it, or other properties that are like it. Taxability, that would be if you own, or if you were running an exempt, like a church, government building, or something that is taxable, or you feel is not taxable. Denial of an exemption, you've applied for conservation use, a homestead, or something in that or denial of a covenant, that would be the conservation use, or a breach of the covenant, where there's been a breach on your conservation covenant, and you feel that it was breached in error. And the bill itself that shows up on the notice is not an appealable ground. And so, all this information is available on our website, the video and the PowerPoint presentation, and there are a couple other videos that we didn't play tonight that are also on there that have some good information on. We'll take general questions if anybody has them, but we can't take any specific questions because we don't have the property record card or anything. But anyone who wants to come to the office and talk to us, we're more than happy to discuss any concerns you have with your properties. And we're in the office 5 days a week, 8 to 5 every day. Whether I'm at lunch or Gary's at lunch, there's still other appraisers in the office who can answer questions.
Thank you, Rob. I hope that helps. I hope it didn't confuse everybody, because I had to look at it 3 or 4 times to understand it myself. Just for the Facebook post that's out there, I want to go ahead and make it known that mine went up $150,500. So commissioners don't get a break just because we said elected. That's in 2 years, I apologize. 100,000 last year, 50,000 this year, based off sales. Robin, one thing that I meant to ask you, could you answer? The state requires us to submit so many sales to the state, and then they pick 75 of them.
Well, the state pulls all our sales. The state pulls every sale we have, and then the state will qualify their own sales. So if we have qualified sales, the state may find more or less qualified sales that they feel qualified that we don't have. So the state sets their own sales ratios. So if our sales ratios in the office, the internal ratios, we may come up with 38 or 40% as a ratio with a good COD and PRD. The state may come in and look at totally different sales. They may come up with 35 or 36. At that point, public utilities pay on 35 or 36. Everybody else still pays on 40.
And for the past couple of years, I think we had a conversation the other day with the one president. As bad as we all hate the increases based off of sales, Madison County is still running under normal.
Madison County's, the state ratio for Madison County last year was low, telling us that our values, even the increases that we had last year, the state still came in and said, hey, y'all are low. Which hence, values go up again this year. The state won't let us know where our values set this year as far as they're concerned until probably August. And then we'll get our final sales ratio in August from the state.
Can you explain the assessed bill, taking the percentage and times it by last year's mill rate is what makes these bills inaccurate that we send out, but it's a mandatory assessment that we send out. It's not something that we generate as much as
the estimated tax bill. The estimated tax bill is the current value, and it's calculated off last year's millage rate. So your value will be different because the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Education, the IDA are going to set a different millage rate this year. Whether that stays the same, whether it's rolled back, or whether it's increased. The estimated tax bill that you get is not going to be what you pay unless the millage rates, all three stay the same.
Thank you. Just so everybody in the audience knows, I have personally reached out to Representative Leverett, Lee Hawkins called. They are going to try to introduce legislation in the next up-and-coming session to have that assessed bill changed to where it's not mandatory that we mail them out, because they do recognize that it's part of the Fair Tax Act, that you get to see that, but they do recognize that the numbers are inaccurate when they send it. They do realize it also causes chaos amongst all counties throughout every state in the United States, so we're trying to get that repealed to where it's not going to be sent to you any longer. So we wish Rob Leverett and his partners luck in getting this introduced. So, with that being said, again, thank you, Robin, for your clarification on that. Moving on to Chairman's report.
You don't want to say any questions?
On that topic?
No, on what you just said.
Sure.
Did you say that you would not got an appraisal or evaluation form, or just not an estimated tax form?
The estimated tax form, because it, again, like what we were just saying, the estimated tax form you received is based on last year's millage rate, so the number could potentially be inaccurate.
We will get an evaluation.
You'll get
show
the
the
notice
change in the value of the property.
The notice is mandatory.
Okay, that was just a little bit confusing. Thank you.
I'm sorry, thank you. It may have been on me, I may have said it wrong, I apologize. All right, Chairman's report. Fall sports registration is now open until July 2nd. Interested citizens can visit Madison County Rec Department website at madcorp.com to register. Madison County Recreation Department We'll be offering some dance camp. There's limited availability, so please reach out to the recreation office for more information on that one. The government complex will be closed Monday, May 29th, in observation of Memorial Day. We would like to honor those who have sacrificed their lives while serving and defending our country. A quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt: "Those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them." The 2023 Spring Tire Amnesty event will be ending June 3rd. The transfer station will be accepting tires from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday only. The transfer station will be accepting up to 10 tires per citizen, no rims, large, or heavy equipment tires. For more information, please contact the transfer station. Please take advantage of the tire amnesty. The Board of Commissioners would like to congratulate the City of Comer and the Chamber of Commerce for this successful Taste of Madison County event. There was a great turnout and community involvement. If you had an opportunity to go, you saw how great it was. Very proud to be a part of that, being able to come and enjoy, I would say probably close to 20, 25 vendors and food, pottery, you name it. If you missed it, please make a note next year. If you see it on Facebook, that's the best social media around right now as far as engagement of the community. Look for that Taste of Madison County that Anna Strickland puts together along with the City of Comer, and please come out for that. You will enjoy your day. The Madison County Emergency Medical Services would like to thank the Comer Lions Club. Their donation and support to the ambulance service in recent events. The Lions Club donated kitchen items for the new EMS station in Comer, which is nearing completion. Statements and remarks from citizens on tonight's agenda. Hearing none, we'll move to old business to discuss the final moratorium recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen. As y'all know, over the past year, Madison County has been in a moratorium where we have assessed and went through rewrites and edits of our zoning documents. Attempt two.
I would have said the judge's chair, but I don't think he'd like it.
Either way.
We can put you on the witness stand.
All right. We've addressed several issues over the past year that were put to us, particularly agriculture zones. As the moratorium progressed towards the end of last year in November, when we extended it, we were also looking at industrial zones as well as subdivisions. With the help of various county offices and staff, we have been able to put in place driveway ordinances that went into effect along with right-of-ways and various other aspects that went hand in hand with major subdivision development. We've seen from our study, our edits in the deep read, that our zoning ordinance is 30 years old. And we put it together. We had a training not that long ago where we were advised to go out for a rewrite of our ordinance. At this point in time, we've done as much as we can with what we have. It's the best way I can say it. I do feel, as does other county staff, that a rewrite going out for a third party for professional assistance is of paramount importance with the development and the tools the county needs to implement the comp plan and all of the other studies that we've had up to this point. If y'all have specific questions on the moratorium or where we stand, I'd be happy to attempt to answer them to the best of my ability, or I'll sit back down.
Just one point to make sure that we're all, and I had asked this question last week, but, you are currently looking for, consultants that you feel like are qualified for us to request to look into our ordinance rewrite?
Yes, sir, we've been, researching intently with not just those around us, but other counties, in the state of Georgia that have a similar dynamic as our county. When they did their rewrite, how long did it take? What was an estimated cost, of course, inflation, things like that. It's varied, to say the least. There are two large firms that are highly recommended around us. I won't say any names, so nobody thinks we're showing any favoritism at this point, but there's two very, very good large firms. But there's also several, I guess you could say, hometown development teams out there that southern agriculture counties in the deep part of the state have went with, and we've also looked to see what more developed counties have used, in particular Chatham County when they did their rewrite as their city limits expanded and there was an annexation between the city and the county were done in developed corridor, things of that nature. Maybe the team that was used by Chatham County was not the team that fits us, but definitely looking at what other counties in Georgia are dealing with or seeing that affects them as well, because we might not see it ourselves yet.
My understanding of the calendar, we're expecting that, hope you'll have a list of those ready for us at the June 5th meeting.
Yes, sir. With as much information as I can glean off of them at this point in time.
The next question I had is on the current moratorium that we have, and it's been put in the way, so there's been some things opened up. So based on where you and P and Z, where you feel like we are in your department, where you feel like we are, what is your recommendation about for us to proceed right now with the moratorium? Do you think we should just completely let it expire and let our ordinance as it stands just come into play until we complete the rewrite? Or do you have other recommendations for us?
We are open to being able to handle all rezones right now. But we would be able to handle a residential rezone. It's the only thing that we are still not rezoning at this point. The number of parcel divisions, at this point, there's only one under the current moratorium. I think we're set up to be able to handle multiple now with a small cushion window going forward without getting expert advice on how best to proceed to fit our comp plan into action over the next 20 years. Whether or not a UBC study comes out, as Mr. Rodney spoke about earlier, there's several years to the watch that's ticking for us, and make no mistake, it is a ticking watch, and if it stops, we'll find ourselves in a very difficult position. The one thing that we tried to address inside the moratorium was minor subdivisions. We've handled major subdivisions. We're on a very good playing field at this point in time. Minor subdivisions would still need further consideration at this point.
So at this point, you feel like it'd be appropriate to let the moratorium as it exists now to expire, and we schedule the end of May. But then, as we talked the other day, there were a couple of things that we had a little bit of lack of comfort on, that you felt like that you were going to continue to look at, maybe present us a proposal, maybe another 30 days or so to.
Yes, sir. With the minor subdivision and parcel divisions, county staff has had conversations and been deep in research. As far as the minor subdivision goes, we lack that little tool between what is a major subdivision and what is, say, for example, a family division of property, or somebody trying to create some passive income through a parcel division. There's a gap, but between those two that we're trying to define now for what's in the county's best interest and our citizenry.
One thing I'd like to add to that list with the permission of the board is, accessory dwelling units.
Yes, sir.
Been, concerned, a little heartburn about that, and potential abuse there, so.
Yes, sir. And I believe I have to give a finding report, if you will, on January 5th, not January, June, they start with the same letter, Christopher. On what research we've been able to pull out just in the state of Georgia. We haven't looked at any surrounding states. We've been looking at how surrounding counties handle accessory dwelling units, or their terminology or their definition thereof. Some counties do have varied terminology between those two.
Any specific action from us to facilitate that the process that you're ongoing, or did it be a formal request, or we wait for June 5th and that?
I think June 5th would be, I can speak on it now, but I think it'd be premature because I still have a few rabbit holes I'd like to ferret out at this point in time. Yes.
Can you update it? I know we need some software to make our system work like we want it to.
Yes,
The
sir.
documents thing. Can you just give us a brief update of where we're at, and just when can we expect maybe something that we could
That's into play.
put into play?
Yes, sir. We're working with Edmonds right now. They're the ones that we contracted with for the, and I don't know, I'm using just the financial aspect of the county. Permitting and zoning was a tag on. And as they finished up the financial platform, they've now started in as a phase 2, if you would, into our information. We've had one meeting right now where they're actually trying to develop a platform for us, just for our county. Instead of it being a cookie cutter or a basic program, they're building one that's for us. I haven't received an update in maybe 2 weeks, so any day I expect emails from them about kind of a beta phase or something for us to test drive, if you will, and see if the tires stay on or if they fall out. That's way too country, so.
Anyone else?
Christian, with the moratorium and the work that we've done, or we've adopted, y'all doesn't worry on me, but we appreciate the effort that's gone into it. I personally probably feel holistically that, you know, we've taken giant strides to stem what we felt were some abuses.
Yes.
And put us on a path now with the expiration of the moratorium.
Yes.
While we're getting that final professional help that we need, that maybe something that still slips through the crack.
Yes.
But from a holistic, we're in a lot better shape than we were. I mean, that's
Yes, sir.
what I'm trying to make. Okay.
Yes, sir. Especially with land use, a lot of times, in the past, it seems our county's been hung up on just acreage size instead of land use, and the two need to be hand in hand. As we move forward, we've made great strides with that currently, and with being able to identify the need to differentiate industrial zones as well from heavy, medium, or light industrial, in combination with the comp plan. We need to be able to identify that to where we can attract the right business to our county.
But, and I think the comp plan, I mean, I give kudos to everybody. I know we have to approve it formally, but
Yes.
the effort that went into that, community input, you know, really, that's driving the rules and regulations is that vision.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Item 8, consider approving the resolution for adoption of the 2023 Madison County Comprehensive Plan.
I make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan as presented.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Doster, second by Commissioner May. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. Commissioner May, on you. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. New business. Consider 2023-2024 Cigna renewal with MSI Benefits Group. Just a brief overview of that. A lot of negotiation went again, back into the insurance benefits, just like anything else, insurance companies are trying to go up. Cigna come back with a renewal rate at 24% higher than what we was last year. We would not accept that renewal rate. They countered back at 16%, and I basically told Matt Bidwell that I would not do anything more than 10%, or I would go shopping for a new insurance company for the Madison County Board of Commissioners, and they come back at 9.9. At this time, yeah, this is what it is. But at this time, along with Matt Bidwell, I think that's about as good as we're going to get, is a 9% increase due to the inflation rate with everything else that's going on in the country. So, Commissioners, I would ask for an approval.
The coverage rate stayed.
Everything stayed exactly the same, sir. We run a little high, and one of the driving factors in this is insurance companies want to see about an 85% claim ratio to what we actually pay in, and we run about 90 to 95. That could be due to heart health, it could do to medication. Medication is probably the most expensive thing that any of us in this room deal with today. Medication is it's probably 40% of our total insurance cost is medication pharmaceuticals. That's over surgeries and everything. That's just medications today. We all live in that world. So, yes, benefits stay the same, sir.
Move to accept the contract.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Chandler, second by Commissioner Kirk. I'm sorry, I apologize. Any discussion, gentlemen?
I had a quick question. On page 3, the last bullet point, support claims over 75K, 450. Are those new claims, or those continuation of something that, happened a year or two ago, and somebody still get better? I'm just
Correct.
not trying to be, I'm just trying to be.
It could be a patient that's had cancer and is still in treatment. It could be a heart attack that is still in treatment, that's not been fully released yet. Yes, sir.
That could be both. Okay.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? Mr. Kirk?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Consider approving a resolution for a free application for the land and water conservation fund. Shelley Farr? Ms. Angela, I don't know which one of y'all's going to speak.
Probably both of us. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm gonna come over here. You can go over there.
Oh, yeah.
I got a picture.
I got it.
So what we were coming to the board with is a resolution on our pre-application for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So the map that you see, this is our park, Sammy Hager Park in Brewer Phillips, where it adjoins all the other little triangles or rectangles and everything that you see there are our plans for the future of the park. Some of that is included for Land and Water Conservation Fund, and then others is for using this grant to funnel into a phased project for everything that we have going on this year. So in your packet, we have a brief overview of what Land and Water Conservation Fund is. It is a 50-50 matching grant. Max is a $500,000 request, which would be your total project would be of $1 million. They have about $7 million to give away for this funding cycle, which would, the application, if accepted and everything, the funds would be available next year in September of 2024. So through the overview, you'll see there's a lot of discussion that we had with our recreation board. We had planning meetings, using our comprehensive plan discussion, the countywide discussion on all of that, and also meeting with Commissioner Hickman and our staff at the department on where do we see the future of the rec department, not just at St. Haggard, but just for the whole community. So, like they were, Rodney was speaking earlier, we really wanted to plan for the long-term range of that, not just what we need right here and now, because that's kind of what we've been thinking in years past, but now we really need to move forward and think, what are we going to have 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So with this Land and Water Conservation Grant, you'll see there is a list of projects in that. The first list is, they're not really in a priority order because it can kind of be planned around different things. But the biggest thing that these projects surround is our stormwater runoff, which you will see in our draft of work plans based on priorities. So we are waiting on, Gary Harvin is getting back with us on our plan survey for the area behind Field 5, where we would like to put additional T-ball fields. We have a few questions on our property boundaries, and he's going to get that to us. But the main thing is our stormwater runoff. We met with Christopher Roach out there, went through, he was aware of a lot of bad news, but we knew it. There's a lot of things that need to be replaced. We need more, we have culverts that are not big enough, we have pipes that are crushed, we have, it's 50 years of park that really needs to be renovated. So that would be our main focus, which would potentially take up a good portion of the funding for this. But with Land and Water Conservation, we can always put in for funding, and whatever we put in for is not absolutely designated for. Like, for instance, when Angela and I were talking earlier today, we were talking about if you put in for 6 toilets, you have to get those 6 toilets. Well, then if you say, we only need 4 toilets, other grants you can't really change, but with Land and Water Conservation, we can do that. Because some of these projects may have the potential to be able to be done before we get funding in September of 2024. And at that point, we can alter, with the Land and Water Conservation permission, we can alter what we use those funds for. It could be essentially a different project if we were able to do some of these beforehand. So, yeah, Angela has some, yeah. Pictures, Angela went around the park taking pictures of everything today. We figured we have our, you can see things in writing, but then it's a lot easier if you can see things in pictures more as well.
No, doesn't like to be on this other day. No, you probably don't have to, because it's just true. Just a second. One of the things that Christopher said earlier is, talking about comprehensive plan, and I think Rodney mentioned it too, is, turn it on time. Okay. That the comprehensive plan could not have come at a better time for us, because it saves a bunch of time in having to get data together. When you could go to that comprehensive plan and say, oh, here's the demographics, here's this, that, and the other. So just sort of an overview of Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's through the Department of Interior, the National Park Service, and but it's administered in the state of Georgia by the Department of Natural Resources. So those are our go-to people. They require, they allow only 3 things that Land and Water Conservation money can be used for. One is to acquire land. The other is to develop outdoor facilities, and then to renovate and rehabilitate outdoor recreation. Well, the comprehensive plan hadn't told us what we need to acquire yet, so scratch that one. We don't have anything sitting there that we need to put something on, so scratch that one. But by the golly, that renovate and rehabilitation, we got a few issues. The dollar for dollar match Shelley mentioned, and the pre-application due dates, the awards are released in the fall of 2024. Money comes pretty quickly once all the documents are signed. If you go over to any of our facilities, you see that little emblem up at the top that says Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's on Sammy Haggard, it's on Brewer Phillips. That has to stay in perpetuity. One of the things with LWCF money is that if you change your mind, you've got to go back and pay a whole bunch of money or else come up with a whole lot of trade, so nobody ever does it. So the renovation of Sammy Haggard Park, just to give you a quick overview, the 1972 first Land and Water Conservation money was to develop the 17 acres. Think of the 3 ball fields and the football field. Then in 77 came back with $20,000 to acquire another 12.5 acres. That's where your playgrounds, your shelters, your restrooms, those type things came from that money. Then in 84, it reads, this is exactly what the contracts read, develop sports playing fields and related facilities. That's the softball field and part of the maintenance. Then we didn't do anything until 2003. And that $75,000 for sports playing field, that's Brewer Phillips. That's your soccer complex and the support facilities there. So here we are, 2022. What do we need? It's been 20 years since we've looked at what there's money and, if we walk around what we've got from these first grants, we got the oldest sign in Northeast Georgia. I mean, you can barely read it on a good day. Our T-ball, we have 2 T-ball fields for 16 teams. But we've got a long history because we got markers up and down everywhere here at Diamond Hill of where we've won. But then you stumble over, oh, what's this? That's the unfinished pavilion that's up behind the softball. We added disc golf, sort of around the edge, we hope. Then you walk up from where this disc golf is the field that Shelley's talking about that used to be football practice. That's an area that we've identified as it's big enough to put some T-ball fields to make it work. Now the next one's an interesting slide. If you sit in a chair at the football field, it's now used for soccer, and you look square over the 50-yard line, at the very back horizon, you can barely see the top of the benches. Now that means that if you're the mama sitting on one side, you can't see what's going on the other because the crown is so high. Land and Water Conservation, this is the back side of the building with the restrooms. This looks up to, this is part of the 1984, was the pavilion and the playgrounds. And then the good news, the bad news, we go to Nice Playground, we've got a money revenue. The signs, that I put this particular to point out, these signs as you go around the complex are what pay for our indigent, or our C-discount program. So we appreciate all the businesses that support us with the sign. Pickleball. Somebody says, what in the world is pickleball? Pickleball has found Madison County. It's found it so much that we had to write the rules, because those of us that are my age don't have the biggest idea how to play it, and now that I've read the rules, can't play it anyway. But it's on a net, on the tennis court, and you use about half the tennis court, and it's a combination with ping pong and tennis and whatever else they use, straight rules. But you want to see something fun? Come out on Wednesday and Thursday? When you got 40 and 50 people waiting to play pickleball on our 3 little courts. we've been found. Then this is the area looking down towards the tennis on the left, the wall, which was in memory of, and the pavilions. And everywhere you walk, you see light poles that either are gonna rust out or need a coat of paint. There's some renovation and rehab. Press boxes, they were built with good intention, unless you've ever had to sit in the bottom of that press box to keep, stored. Because there's no air conditioning, there's no windows except through the front. So that's problematic. I put more signs in, but you also notice on this that you've got a buildup from the parking area, which is great, and it helps, except that when the water runs off, it's gotta go somewhere. So it comes over that, concrete and across the driveway to the other fields, and we're gonna talk about that. Here you get into, this is from the T-ball, the potential T-ball area, looking back towards the softball complex. And if you notice, there's a culvert. That's how we get lawnmowers back and forth across. Water has got to go somewhere, so it goes across fields. The only thing that we have to maintain is this one little area where the flagpole is. That's our memorial area. This is considered the pauper cemetery. Go back way in history, this was the county farm. So that area, when they did the original 1972, was designated as you can't touch that. So it's there's our memorial area. So we talked, as Shelley said, if there was no limit and you had all the funds you wanted, what could you do? And we came up with a long list. But then the budget documents say you've got to group it into projects. So we narrowed it down to the four that Shelley mentioned, the ball fields, the trails, the tennis and basketball, and the parking. We didn't include a bunch of major items, which we really need. The gym and administration building we've been talking about, the splash pad doesn't have a holding tank, so water just runs down. We're gonna look where it goes. The central administration building, let's just hope it doesn't catch on fire. The demolition of those concrete masonry unit press boxes, upgrading the dugouts, those things, they need to be done. But to do it, you gotta figure out what your priorities. So that becomes your integrated work plan. So when you walk around, you gotta remember that your facilities were built at state-of-the-art in 1972. They've been maintained and maintained well, but there's been very little, if any, upgrade. And Sammy Haggard Park has absolutely, over the years, been loved to death, and it shows. So if you ask your public what your priorities are, the soccer folks say get rid of the crown. The T-ball folks say there's no place to practice. The baseball folks say the outfields are horrible. The softball folks say, boy, when you try to pick up a ball behind, you get your hands caught in the fence. It's all whose perspective. So figuring out how to develop a plan to restore Sammy Haggard Park is what this is all about. So that's where we divided it into the emergent issues, the stormwater runoff, the pipes, the culverts, the erosion, the hazards that go with that. There's aluminum wiring in the original first part of that complex, and you talk to Mark Perry, I think, when there's a problem, he'll tell you all about it. There's irrigation lines under the football field that were put there in 1972. Some of them are about this deep, some of them are about this deep, and all of them are pretty much not working. So to group this in priorities, you can't just say this is one little thing that needs to be done, because it's all interrelated. If you look on that list of priorities, everything has design work. So that's sort of where we went with trying to help prioritize, is every project has got to have some landscape grading, not just eyeball it, but really truly somebody who knows what they're doing. It's got to have the infrastructure work, And you gotta figure out where we're gonna park the cars, because if you hadn't been over there on fall night, there ain't no place to park. Give you an idea of what we're talking about when we say stormwater. This is the driveway on the left, is the driveway at the library. Our driveway, some splits the park and the library. So if you hit them pretty much, come on now, there you go. The side of the library has real nice gutters, and they have, if you notice at the corner, all that water goes somewhere, except, keep going. This is looking that same from the top down. It's got a pretty big hole there. Well, then you turn the corner to the left, and it runs. And this nice little retaining wall, and I'm sure when the library had to be renovated after the tornado, but it runs down to across the little shallow ditch. And it keeps on running, and it goes on down behind the shop. Now, then you go back to the other side. This is, when you walk up, the top is the T-ball field, the potential T-ball field. It was graded off, and yeah, well, there's problems. Then you get back to this little drain. This little 12-inch drain pipe has got to take all the water from the T-ball, all the water coming down, and this is what it looks like on the other side. And it goes somewhere. It goes down to this nice storm drain, and this black pipe is where the water comes from the splash pad, sort of underneath the shop. Okay, sure you have another one. Another page. Don't tell me you lost my pretty. Gotta get my pretty pictures. There you go. These are a little smaller, but there again, this is at the big pavilion. Water runs off, and it heads towards the creek. Kids like to take these nice little blocks, stones, and use them for play toys. And this is coming, left side is to the right. This is face on from down where the water runs off. It comes in to that culvert there. And if you hit the next one, that's how big the culvert is to take all of the water. And then it runs out, down to the creek. Thank you, Christopher, for finding where that was. And sometimes there's some accoutrements to make sure that the water doesn't run too fast. And the disc golf. A number of areas on the nature trail and disc golf come down into the same little creek with no way to stop the water. The storm drains where we put block around it or rip wrap around it, some haven't. And this is field 1. Now, to the right of field 1, that storm drain goes down to the football field. How it gets there, we haven't figured that out yet. And then there are other places like the playground where it's just eroded around. This is at the upper parking lot. This storm drain, so the other end of it, somewhere up there in the road department, didn't quite find that one yet. And it comes down and runs all the way down to the basketball court. And you see what happens. Covered up storm drains, all of them grassed in. This one, Shelley mentioned is, Christopher stepped down and said, oops, there's breakage here. And we didn't sign them off. And this is the big pipe that all the water from the upper field and the soccer field goes under the driveway to get to the creek. All, 18 inches. So facility upgrades, the phase 2, would be, you begin to see how it all deals together. We upgrade the trails, but we got to deal with the water. We got to deal with the erosion along the fences. That's upgrading the ball fields. Tennis and pickleball courts, we need space. We can put them up towards the road department, move the basketball courts, got courts types before t-ball courts, fix the batting cages. And what's the priority? It's called a work plan. So, I forgot now. This again is priorities on your work plan. We've got some areas where we put riprap down the fields. We've got some areas where we've, done the covers. This is your basketball court. Flip one more. This piece is laid, on the one that just flipped up, is laying over in the corner where I suspect if you move it back to where it came from, it was there. When it peels up, people just tear it off because you trip over it and toss it away. You know, you can grow plants very well there, better than I can at my house. These are called accidents or injuries waiting to happen, trip hazards. And then back to the people. We've got plenty of opportunity. The phase 3, on out, complete your softball, your batting cages, phase 4. Then gets into ultimately relocating maintenance, using some parking areas. There's no exterior fire escapes on the football field, stuff like that has got to be done. So how do you get it all done? This is a 2-year grant. This is the 2nd year, so it's going to cover a couple of years of budget. But to sum it up, the recreation department is expanding the services. We're increasing our athletic numbers rapidly. We're seeking new partners. We're seeking alternate Sundays. Shelley had mentioned the Major League Baseball grant for Diamond Hill. But you look right below where we started with that land and water conservation. We've run out of trophy space on our field that was built with our 3 fields that we've expanded over the years. So that's basically Madison County Rec Department started with a vision and with land and water conservation funding. So this resolution, this money is an opportunity to continue that heritage on a 50-50, a dollar for dollar match.
Thank you, Angela.
So with all of that, you know, there's a lot of pictures and everything, but, pictures are better than just reading, words on paper, but we do have a lot of ideas, a lot of things coming up. So we're just asking the board for their, permission and resolution to apply for this.
So I just have one question in relation to this on the matching funds that we would, the Board of Commissioners would be required to allocate. Can in-kind work be used as a part of it?
Yes. So, the matching funds can be, it could be monetary, it could be in-kind, it could be discounts on product or anything like that, supplies and whatnot. So, all of that can be included, so it doesn't have to be a, $500,000 monetary or anything like that.
A lot of that work that you showed, particularly dealing with the water, would be something we can handle in the house.
Yes, there's a lot of things to get this started that we can handle with our county, departments that we have.
And forgive me, but I just made a comment to Commissioner Chandler here. I appreciate the in-kind work, and I appreciate the folks that we have in the county that are always willing to step up. But our road department can't keep up with roads. And I would suggest, I have no problem supporting the resolution, applying for the grant. I would suggest that we look at developing some type of master plan over there, put it out to bid, let's figure out what we need to do, and then move forward. But we can't keep leaving off resources. I spent Saturday afternoon picking up trash on the side of the road, but we can't do that.
Right. Yes, no, we definitely, need a master plan for the department, especially with everything that's changing our community and how quickly we are growing and everybody coming to the county, so.
But I have no exceptions to the resolution.
And Vinny, I think, the reason that the design work has to be, for the entire project, has to be the first thing, is exactly what you're getting to, is it all needs to be done yesterday, but how's the orderly way to get back on the right track.
This, request for proposal for a master plan is right there.
Yeah.
But again, that can be done, this can go ahead and go in the works right now, and then you can go out for that, and it'll be included in your budget request for this coming year.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so with that being said, any other questions for, Ms. Vaughn?
Tilly, Angela, it's been a few years since I've dealt with LWTF. Honestly, it was more on that acquisition side. Are we comfortable, and I'm gonna support, don't get me wrong, but are we comfortable with any, I'm gonna say, fine print that comes with federal grants? Because we need to ask Mike to double check it. I'm not opposed to it, I just wanna make sure that we're not finding a landmine somewhere that we got getting back out of it later.
No, as far as everything that we've, all the research and everything, and I know Angela really knows a lot of people over there. So they've been very helpful with everything, all the documents and everything. So we feel very confident in moving forward with this process and everything, with the potential outcomes.
There's a bedtime reading.
Nope.
Yeah, there's a huge packet.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vaughn. All right, gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion to consider approving the resolution for pre-application for land and water conservation funding.
I make a motion to approve this resolution.
I have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Kirk. Any discussion, gentlemen?
It'd just be a question of, when would be the timeline of, where we would need to identify where the potential matching funds would come from. Where we would identify those sources.
February of 2024.
Okay. So we'd be in next budget year.
Thank you. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
We gotta make the first cut.
Okay.
All right. Hearing none, Derek?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. And just, for the record, and I'm going off last year's numbers, which has not changed much as far as if the public has any questions about how much, of their tax bill goes towards the rec department. I'm working off last year's numbers of $15.37 of every $1,000 of your tax bill goes to the Madison County Rec Department. So if you pay $2,000 a year in taxes, you actually contribute $30 to the rec department. And thank God, most of those slides you showed was prior to any of this board commission. And I know Alan appreciates the comments from, Commissioner Adams, because no, we don't have time to do that. Thank you.
And Todd, if I can just say, Christopher and Alan and several of the departments have been just absolutely wonderful in getting information together. When you start doing these kind of things, it's nice to have people that have the answers.
All right, moving on to road updates. Thank you, ma'am. Madison County Road Department has applied for a local maintenance and improvement safety action plan grant for over $250,000 for road improvements. These improvements will include striping and signage. The county should receive award notice, late summer or early fall. Road crews are currently widening and clearing trees on Old Royston Road, the Old Royston Road right away. Stumping project on Lim Edward Road construction should begin soon. The delay has been due to equipment repairs. I can't even answer that one just because we're in a world of nobody has anything in stock. That's all I can say. I apologize for people who live on Lim Edward, and I appreciate your patience. Nobody wants it done no more than I do, I assure you. The road mowing crews have been moved to Carlton and the Blacks Creek Church Road area. We ask the public please be aware of their surroundings while traveling in these areas. Iowa Road, Bobby Road, Low Road ditches have been reconstructed to improve stormwater runoff. And last but not least, we've got a lot of complaints and calls, including from DOT, election signs and all other signs cannot be in the county and or state right of way. Just if you don't know, there's a lot more coming. County right of way, normally 60 foot, and it's 30 foot from the center line. State highways is normally 100 foot, and then 50 foot from the center line. If you're putting out signs of any type, it doesn't matter if it's a home for sale, keep it out of the right of way. Because if the signs come up missing, we don't want you to think somebody stole them. They were not stolen. They were picked up either by the county mowing crews and or by Georgia Department of Transportation. So, with that being said, statements and remarks from citizens.
My name is Troy Gosanovich, and I'm here tonight to try to encourage the board to take two actions on behalf of the health and safety of the citizens of Madison County. At a recent Public Service Commission meeting in Atlanta, with all their wisdom, they went and put scrap tires onto the list of biomass fuels that could be burned. And I put tires up there with railroad ties as far as something somebody shouldn't do. You know, they put that on there as a biomass and give it a nice title of TDF, which stands for tire-derived fuel. And what I'm hoping this board might do, like with the railroad ties, is do a proposal, a resolution, to get to the commission saying that you oppose the tires be put on this list of biomass fuels, you know, to protect everybody. It would be a horrendous thing like with the railroad ties, and I would encourage this board to write up a resolution and get it to the PSC before the next meeting, which is June 1st. So that we know that locally there are people that are opposed to this, and I think other groups are in opposition to it, and there's a movement to try to get them to rescind what they've done. But this board, by doing a resolution saying you'd be opposed to scrap tires being put into the biomass fuel chain, would help the Service Commission decide to rescind what they've already passed. The other thing I'd like to see the board do, is again, on this same line, is to make sure that we have an ordinance in this county that would just prohibit the burning of scrap tires for any reason, including industrial reasons. I think if the county put something like that in place, it would even override what the state would do if they decided to use TDF as a fuel, you know, for production. We have a biomass plant here that it may not qualify for this process, but through alteration of step or through changing the rules of the more they might. So I think both these things would be something the board could do that would be great and would protect the health and welfare of the citizens of the county.
Thank you, sir. I did send an email out to board commissioners today along with the link from AJC, and I did follow up with Christopher Roach. I'm not real sure how they voted to change that, because there's federal requirements with the Clean Air Act that don't allow that. So I'm not real sure how the state of Georgia is going to react, but I can assure you it's not something I want in this county.
Well, again, I would encourage the board to write that up and let the commission know that you are opposed to it. And I think the EPA allows it in some instances, shredding tires, removing all the metal, and using it as a, you know, tire-derived fuel. This is something new in Georgia, but by people like you taking action right away, we can stop it because it becomes, you know, a worse issue than it would be.
Thank you, sir. Any other statements or remarks from citizens? Hearing none, statements or remarks from commission. Hearing none, urgent matters. Hearing none, executive session to discuss real estate acquisitions, personal matters, potential litigation, sir.
Yes, sir.
From 16, Gary Costa.
Move adjourned.
Motion carries.
That, but I wouldn't be able to write this from all the budget.
I knew.
I don't write them.
I've never seen
Did you really?
All right.
Okay.